I appreciate y'all coming so much today. You know, whenever you sign up to do these talks, you worry about if anybody will actually show up and be interested in anything you have to say. So just to be sure that I had at least some audience, my family came. So you can always count on your family to have your back, you know, and so I really appreciate that. So let me introduce them to you, if you don't mind, right here. I don't know that if any of you have ever met them. This is my oldest son, Nathan. Hi. And this is his wife, Misty. And this is my youngest son, Stephen. So they are my amazing support system, and they were so amazing through my whole experience, and could not have made it through without them, so that it's only right that they would be here to, you know, hear me share with you and to support me and have my back like they have had through the whole experience. Going through this experience was so traumatic and so awful in so many ways. But I remember, I guess, the educator part of me kept thinking, I need to learn something from this, you know. I need to be better when I come out on the other side. I need to get something from this. And so I actually spent a lot of my time laying in the hospital bed thinking, you know, what am I learning here? You know, what is a lesson here that I can learn? And I learned a lot of things from the experience, and I'm not the same person that I was before. My adjuncts can tell you, and I even have one of them here somewhere. I'm not seeing you right in front of me. Of course, that's why I'm not seeing her. Can tell you that I used to be, you know, much more probably difficult to get along with. I had one adjunct that dropped a knife on her foot and called me and said, I'm on my way to the ER. And I said, are you still going to be able to make it for class at 6:30? Because I, you know, had no sense. And now when they say I dropped a knife on my foot, I say, get to the ER. Let me come take you to the ER. I'll take you home. I'll make you soup, you know, or whatever. So I've definitely, in those kinds of regards, definitely have changed. But I need to tell you a little bit about the experience itself in order to explain the things that I learned, because the things that I learned are not going to make sense unless you understand to some degree the experience. I'm going to save you the really details that you don't want to hear and don't want to know, and I personally don't want to even have to say, so I'm going to leave those out. But I'm going to tell you the highlights just so you can understand the picture and see the picture, and then understand better the things that I learned from the experience. So the situation began in early 2013, and at that time I was really physically active. I was running 2 to 3 miles a day. I was walking my dog, a rescue dog that I had. I was working out at the gym a couple of times a week. I was doing yoga. I was really physically active and all about, you know, being healthy and eating right and all that sort of thing. And early in that year, I began to have a pain in my hip, in my left hip, and when I ran. And so I started thinking about it. Gee, I'm spending, you know, probably 2 hours a day doing physical activity and stuff. And for my age, maybe that's a little too much. You know, maybe I need to scale back a little bit. I thought it was overuse and that sort of thing. And so I started to kind of scale back a little bit what I was doing to not, you know, put myself totally out of commission. And so over the course of time, though, the pain got increasingly worse. So even the less that I did, the pain got worse. Well, my son and daughter-in-law were getting married in April of that year, and I was very excited about the wedding, and attention was on that, and that was very important to me. And people had said, you know, you probably need a cortisone shot in your hip, and that did not sound like anything I was interested in. And so I just decided that, you know, I think I can tough this out and this will get better on its own. So I didn't go to the doctor, and it got progressively worse, and Yui was in the office at that time, and it was before Kim had started, but Yui was in the office, and Amanda, and help me with the other name. Anna, thank you. And Anna were in there, and I would come into the office, and it got to the point to where I was limping, and they would say, you really need to check on that. So it had gotten pretty bad. So in the middle of May, I made an appointment, went and saw the PCP. And they said, you know, let's take an x-ray, we'll take a look at it, and, you know, we'll take it from there. About 5 days later, the nurse called me and said, hey, took a look at your x-ray. Everything looks fine. It's normal. No problem. Whatever. I remember thinking, well, that hurts a lot for everything to be okay. But all right, you know, if you know what you're doing, and, you know, whatever. So I started summer school, and really it was getting progressively worse. And in fact, it got so bad during summer school that I couldn't even stand to teach. So I had students sit like this at tables, and I sat at a table because I wasn't really even able to stand any length of time on my leg because the pain was just too much. So by the 1st of July, I was like, you know, maybe they couldn't see anything then, but surely, you know, I need a cortisone shot. You know, I wanted one at that point. You know, give me something. And so I didn't see the PCP again. I just went and got a referral for an orthopedic doctor and went in. He said, you know, I really think it's probably bursitis. I think a cortisone shot is what you need. And he said, but let's take an x-ray. Let's take a look at it and see what we see. So he did the x-ray, and he came in and he put it up on, you know, one of the screens, and he said, you know, most people would call this normal. This looks like a normal x-ray. And he said, most people would call this normal. And I was thinking, yeah, I've already heard it's normal 2 months ago. And he said, but I see this funny little thing right here that doesn't look exactly right. And he said, so I think we should do an MRI. And he said, you know, it won't cost you anything but time and money. And I'm thinking, don't have a lot of either one of those. But okay. And he said, you know, well, time and money. And he said, that way we can rule that out. And he said, and then I'll have you come in and we'll get you a cortisone shot. I think you'll feel a lot better. And I said, sounds great. So went and had the MRI done. July 4th kind of came and time kind of got off. So it was about 10 days before I got back in. I went into the office and he walked in the door and he said, ooh, I do not have good news for you. Okay, I was there by myself because I'm thinking I'm getting a cortisone shot, you know, and I'm just like, give me the cortisone shot. In fact, no one even knew I had an appointment. I had not even told my husband I had an appointment because I went after school. It was at 4 o'clock. I went to school, going to zip by there and get a cortisone shot. I didn't really want to talk about the shot part that much. So I had not told anybody about it, you know, went in and he said, ooh, this is, you know, this is not a good thing. Okay, well, what would that be? So he pulled up the MRI and was able to show me on the screen that I had a tumor in my upper femur. And he said, you know, my biggest concern, maybe he shouldn't have said this right at this point, but he said, my biggest concern is that bone cancer is not typically the primary place. It's usually a secondary place. So my guess is you have cancer somewhere else, and it is now spread to your bones. Okay. I'm thinking I'm getting a cortisone shot, you know, so if you can imagine my total shock, you know, at this news, you know, at all. So he said, this is, you know, incredibly serious, and he said, I've already called MD Anderson. They're going to see you Thursday. This was a Tuesday. They're going to see you in 2 days. I've talked to the surgeon there. He's going to see you on Thursday. Okay, I went in from a cortisone shot to now I'm a patient at MD Anderson. You know, cancer does not run in my family on either side. So if you think I ever had thought for 1 minute that I would have cancer of any sort, I'm not a hypochondriac. I never thought that was a problem. I never thought it was anything serious. I just needed a cortisone shot to take care of it. I'm not the type that automatically thinks the worst and the negative and that sort of thing. And so it had literally never crossed my mind that it was anything serious, and for sure that it was anything cancer. I knew nothing about MD Anderson or being a patient there. I had never personally known anybody very well that had been a patient at MD Anderson. It was an absolute and total shock. So I went home. I didn't call anybody, you know, on the phone. I was just trying to let it all sink in. It was just so overwhelming. And I went home and called my family and said, gee, you won't believe it, but that little place in my hip that you've been wanting me to see the doctor about, I have an appointment at MD Anderson on Thursday, you know, with it, which of course caught my family totally, you know, by shock as well. Everyone was there. About 10 people showed up on that first appointment. So the doctor looked at the MRI, and he said, you know, the first thing, I was with the surgeon, he said the first thing we need to do is get a biopsy of it. And he said to see, you know, what it is. They're graded 1 through 3, and he said it's not staged like other cancers, they're graded. And he said we need to see what grade it is, because that's going to determine what we're going to do, how we're going to move forward. And so, great. So they set the biopsy up, they did it. I went back in. He said, well, you know, the good news is it's between a benign and 1, you know, so it's kind of borderline. And he said the tricky thing about this is you don't ever know exactly what to do with a benign and 1. So it has some malignancy characteristics to it, but it also has some benign characteristics too. And he said, but what's really throwing me off is, he said, the amount of pain that you're in. He said, you're having a lot of pain for a benign grade 1. And he said, that is not typically, usually if someone had a benign grade 1, they would not even know that they had it. He said, usually the pain doesn't come until it's a full grade 3, and most people at that point break the bone itself, and then they find the tumor and go, oh, look here, there's a tumor where this leg bone just broke, because the tumor's actually inside the bone where the bone marrow would be, and it eats away the inside of the bone to the outside until the bone eventually breaks from pressure and weight and that sort of thing. So he said, I think the best thing to do at this time, he said, the surgery for this type of cancer is, or this type of tumor, he said, is really, really awful. He said, we don't take the surgery lightly, and so we don't, do this unless we know for sure it has to be done. And he said, there's 2 ways it can be done. One is we can go in there and we can cut a hole in the bone itself, and we can put an instrument in there and we can scrape the tumor all out from the inside, and then we'll seal that hole back up. And he said that's the least invasive, but it is quite the recovery. And he said the other one, which is incredibly invasive, if we go in, we peel away all of your muscles off of the bone, we cut the bone out itself, the femur out itself, we put in a prosthesis, then we sew the muscles back onto the prosthesis, and you hope that the muscles stick, that they actually will grow back onto the prosthesis and work again like they're supposed to. Wow. So he said, so I think because of the way the surgeries are, I think we should wait until October and make a decision about which one to do, because you just don't do either one of these lightly. So I think that we should wait and be sure if we need to do it at all and which one we need to do. Okay, so we go home, and I don't know, he went on a 3-week vacation, and I just did not have a peace about it. I was in a lot of pain. And waiting until October, we're, now probably the end of July or something like that. And I thought that was a long time to wait. I was in a lot of pain, and I just did not have a peace about that, nor did my family. So I called the office while he was on vacation, and I said, I really want an appointment to see him again as soon as he gets back from vacation. And I said, I want to talk about this again. I want us to discuss this again. I'm just not sure that I want to wait till October to really do anything at all. So they set me up. I went in when he got back, and he said, okay, he said, it's important that the patient be on board with, what we're doing. And he said, so let's go ahead and run another MRI. It'd been about 6 weeks. And he said, another MRI. And he said, let's see what it's done in that 6 weeks, and that will give us a better idea, of what to do. So we did the MRI, and the results were that it had grown 2 centimeters in that 6 weeks. I don't know anything until this about tumors or cancerous tumors, and so, but it seems that 2 centimeters in 6 weeks is a lot. That's obviously a lot of growth. So he was very concerned. He said that means it's an aggressive tumor, and he said, I am very concerned, and I think we need to go ahead and do the surgery right away. So he gave me the option between the 2 surgeries, and quite frankly, it's weird when you know that you have a tumor. You think of how would I feel or what would I think. You don't know until you have that information. And what I was, get it out. I don't want any chance. There's, take the whole leg. I don't want any chance that any of it, is left in there. So he said, that would have been my choice. That's what I would do. That's safe than sorry. So it was determined that we would have the surgery, and that he would remove that part. So the surgery was scheduled, and it was done. The doctor came in after the surgery, and he said, hey, got it all. It is all gone, and you are good to go. And I said, for the rest of my life, I'm good. I wanted to be sure that I was, we were all done. And he said, yes, you are good to go. We got it. I think you're all good. So, and Kim, I don't know, do you want to show that right here? I did bring a little visual, since we're in academia, I figured you would want to see what it actually looks like. This is just a video of after it. So the bone that was taken out on the left, you can see that's the prosthesis that's in my left leg, and you can see on the right that it goes down almost to my knee. So that was the part of the femur was taken out. The little circles, I don't know if you can see those on the left, but that's where the muscles were actually sewn to those pads. Those are porous little pads. This was actually breaking edge technology. I was the first person they used it on, which I'm very grateful for. And they sewed the muscles on there, and then the idea is that the muscles are supposed to grow into those holes to attach and hang on to that prosthesis so that you have muscles that you can use. And fortunately, they have done that. It did what it was supposed to do. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and think about, the horrible surgeries they have that they send you home on the same day. So that was the magnitude of the surgery. Is 14 days I was in the hospital because the recovery was unbelievable. At the end of 14 days, I was well enough to go home. I was on a walker and that sort of thing, but I was well enough to go home. 2 weeks later, I went in for the 2-week checkup. You know how you do after you've had surgery and you come in. And he walked in the door and said, well, I have bad news for you. Okay, I've heard that before. And that was not good the last time I heard that, from the orthopedic doctor. And he said, it ends up that tumor pathology showed that tumor is stage 3. It's the worst you can get. It's the worst, most aggressive bone cancer you can have. We have to do something more than just removing it. So because it's carried through the blood, it's a blood-borne cancer, then you're going to have the most aggressive chemotherapy that is available. I mean, the most aggressive because of the degree of what it is. Wow. Okay, this is getting to be, the world's biggest nightmare. I'm months into this thinking I need a cortisone shot to now I'm starting, this horrific chemotherapy. To make the chemotherapy, there's a few things you need to know to totally understand it and to totally get the picture. But he had me 2 days later seeing the oncologist, and who was amazing. He was the chair of his department and was amazing. And he came in and said, I'll just tell you up front, this is going to be a horrible experience for you. And his words were, I'm going to take you to hell and back, but I'm going to do everything in my power to cure this. And for which I was so incredibly grateful, as you can imagine. So they gave me, he had me originally set up for 8 sessions or 8 treatments, and one medication that would run the whole 8 times, one medication that would run the first 4, and a second medication that would run the last 4. And the second medication that ran the last 4 is a medication that's done only at MD Anderson. No other cancer hospital uses it because the side effects are so bad and because it's so hard on the body that other hospitals are afraid to use it. It's just too strong, and they're just afraid to use it. So the treatment started. It was horrible. I was in the hospital 112 days. My family stayed with me every single night. I was not a single night that someone from my family was not there, and during the day it was amazing. Each treatment I was in 10 to 12 days. That's how ill I got after each treatment. But the interesting thing was, and I don't know if you know anything about this or not, and I'm not going to, hopefully I'm not telling you more than you want to know anyway, but the most interesting thing is I had a port in my arm, which I still have the scars that I look at periodically to remind myself of where I've been, and I had a port which is just a sewn in, what's that thing called? What? Yeah, it's like a catheter, like a, IV, like an IV. Yeah, so it was like a sewn-in IV. And it had a tube that ran up my arm and across here and directly into my heart. And they would hook up that chemotherapy medicines to that, and they would run that chemotherapy directly into my heart, which was a little disconcerting, as you can imagine. But what was the most disconcerting was that the nurses that ran it directly into my heart came in gear from top to bottom like they were in bee suits and with goggles and the whole thing, because they didn't want the medicine to touch them anywhere, nowhere. They were covered top to bottom. There would be 2 that would come in like outer space creatures to hook me up, and they were running it into my heart. And it was it was really crazy and a little hard, you know, to get used to. They did do them at midnight, I guess, hoping that the patients would be asleep, you know, and so that you would, yeah, so that they, you know, didn't bother you during the day or whatever. I remember laying in the bed, though, and I would pray for my heart, you know. I would say, God, make my heart strong to be able, you know, and I would, the whole time it would run through my system, I was praying for my heart, you know, and protection for my heart. As I would lay there, though, for all of those days, and even when I was at home, I would think over and over, I don't want to die. You know, I don't want to die. I have these beautiful children. You know, my oldest had just gotten married. They haven't had any children yet. My youngest isn't married yet. And I kept saying, I want to dance at his wedding. And because dancing with my oldest son at his wedding was one of the happiest things I ever did. And I wanted to dance with the youngest son, and I wanted to have grandchildren. You know, it wasn't that I was afraid of where I was going to go. It wasn't afraid of heaven. It wasn't afraid of dying. I just didn't want to. And it was facing your own mortality and knowing that your family is facing that as well, and that they're struggling with it. So you're trying to be strong for them because they're having the same questions. And I would think, what are they talking about behind my back? Are they saying, oh my gosh, you know, what are we going to do, you know, or what would we, you know, whatever. And it would kind of freak me out, you know, when I would see them, I never said it, but I always wanted to go, what have y'all been talking about me behind my back? You know, are y'all saying good things? And I would lay in the bed and I would say, when they would come in, and I would say, am I going to die? Do you think I'm going to die? And I would say, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think I'm going to be okay and I'm going to go back to work? What do you think is going to happen? And they would say, you're absolutely going to go back to work. You're absolutely going to be okay. You are not going to die. And I needed them to say that, you know. I didn't know if it was true or not, but when they said it, I believed it, you know. And they would say, I dreamed, my mother said, I dreamed that you got well and the angels sang hallelujah. That's all I needed, you know. That, you know, I just needed to hear that other people believed I could be okay and that I would be okay. And just knowing that everybody believed that I could be okay and that they had my back and I was going to be okay was enough to just help me to move forward. I tried, and I think I did a pretty good job. I kept in close contact with Kim and Mindy and Jill and several that were here. And I tried to be as positive as I could. Everybody kept saying, your attitude matters a lot, your attitude matters a lot. And quite frankly, I just was not willing to think of the consequences or what the other side would be. My motto was move forward. You know, don't look at what's today. Just get through today and go to tomorrow. Get through tomorrow, go to the next day. Get through the next day, go to the next day. It was just constantly a looking forward and moving forward. The treatments were over after the 7th treatment. I didn't make the 8 treatments because my body just could not take anymore. At the 7th treatment, my blood, what would happen is with the chemo would kill everything in your blood, everything. Red cells, white cells, platelets, and cancer cells, hopefully, and everything was killed. And so it was just like red water. It's basically all I had running through my body. And so what would happen is it would kill it, and then 4 to 5 days later, because our bodies are just miraculous, you know, things, it would regenerate and it would make the, you know, cells back, and they would give me transfusions and things to help as well and medicines to help as well. But your body would regenerate. After the 7th treatment, my body just did not bounce back. I mean, it had had all it could take. The cells did not bounce back. 2 weeks later, my platelets that were supposed to be 144,000 at the minimum were 2,000, and my white cells count were, you know, I mean, everything was just had bottomed out, and they were not coming up. And so when I went in to see the doctor before the 8th treatment, he said, you know, my professional opinion is your body, if we do any more, we're doing more harm than good. And he said, we've pushed the envelope as far as we can. And he said, I've given you the most aggressive treatments I can give you. And he said, we have to stop at this point. It was interesting that before each treatment, I'd have to see him, and then I would check into the hospital. The doctors in the hospital is all one building. And so you would see him, and then I would walk to the hospital. It was so weird. I would be feeling finally a little bit better, and you'd walk in, and you'd walk to the floor, and you'd go to your room, because they tell you what your room was, and you just go in there with your clothes on and go, okay, I'm here. It was the freakiest thing. But he So now I've just lost my thought because that was not in my notes. So I've totally lost my thought. I was going to tell you something about that. I'll come back to it. It doesn't really make any difference. The treatments were so the treatments were 7 and it ended at 7. I just hate that. Don't you hate that when you lose a good thought? But it's obviously not good enough that it wasn't here, so I guess I won't worry about it. So the treatments were over, and you would have thought when he went in and he said the treatments are over, you would have thought at that point that I would have just been elated, and just been thrilled. But I didn't know how to feel. I missed a treatment. Did I need that treatment? Was that going to be the one that put me over the edge? And now everything that could be done had been done. So it either was going to come back or it wasn't, and there was nothing else I could do. At that point, severe anxiety set in. I mean, debilitating anxiety, almost as bad as the other things, to where from the time I would open my eyes in the morning until I went to sleep at night, I would have that fight or flight adrenaline pumping just like this through my system. And your body is just not made to handle that kind of adrenaline just around the clock. But there was just so much anxiety about it coming back, and that there was nothing else that I was going to be able to do or nothing else that could be done for it, because there was just no other, I was totally out of control. What had been done had been done. Well, at that point, everything freaked me out. Everything made the anxiety worse. If you think about the commercials that you see on TV, I mean, you see cancer commercials, repeatedly. You see billboards for, funeral homes and stuff. I pass by, you pass by cemeteries, and it would just be, just driving past a cemetery would just throw me into the most incredible state of anxiety. It was horrible. My mother, bless her soul, they say bless your heart, had just read a book on heaven, and she's like, here, read this book on heaven. I don't want to read a book on heaven. I don't want to read that. I was like, what are you saying? I still have not read that book on heaven. I'm not ready to read it yet. I just wanted to knock on her head, but Yeah, I know about heaven, but I was not interested in reading that book then, nor am I right today either. Someday I will be ready to read that book on heaven. But it got so bad, I saw a counselor at MD Anderson, and then she just said, oh, you're going to be fine, and that really was not enough. Just saying, oh, you're going to be fine was not enough. So I eventually got a Christian counselor that I went and saw, and he said, it's just Satan beating you up. If he can keep you down and keep you anxious and keep you upset all the time, then you're going to be of no value to anybody. You're not going to have any kind of a story to tell. You're not going to be able to help other people because you're just going to be just so kept down that you're just going to be defeated. You're going to just stay defeated. And he said, I think that you need to begin to memorize Scripture, and I think you need to say it throughout the day. And when you feel that anxiety attack coming on, you need to just start, saying that Scripture. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And as of today, I've memorized 87 verses, and I still say them every day. I would not imagine going a day without saying them, because that anxiety, I'm so afraid of that anxiety that I would not even consider not saying them to keep that anxiety at bay. So where am I today? I still go in every 3 months because of the type of cancer. I didn't say it was, I maybe alluded to, but I didn't really say. It's extremely rare cancer. Only 200 cases are diagnosed a year. That's how rare it is. And so there's very little study that has been done about it, because there's not enough people sick to have any kind of a cause for it, or have anybody to go in, and try to raise funds for it, and they know nothing about it. They do not know what causes it. They have not found any link with the patients that have it. It just appears to be this random cancer that happens when it spreads. If it spreads, not when. If it spreads, it spreads typically to the lungs and becomes lung cancer. And so that's why I have to go in every 3 months to have checks of my lungs to be sure that there's nothing there, there's no tumors forming or nothing there. My doctors think I'm an incredible miracle. I walk without a limp the majority of the time. There's very few people that have this type of surgery that ever walk without a cane. But not only do I walk without a cane, but I have very, very little limp. He told me, Some people stay on a walker the whole time. Most people stay on a cane. Some people are able to walk with a slight limp, and a very few people walk with no limp at all. That'll be me. I'll be one of those that walks with no limp at all. And so just knowing that that was possible and out there was all they needed to tell me. And I've done lots and lots of rehabilitation in order to get to the point where I only limp in the evenings. I do limp it in the afternoons and evenings, but it's from fatigue, just because it gets tired. But during the day, rarely do I have anything like that. The doctors are amazed. Every time I go in every 3 months, they have me walk down the hall and back, and I think because they're so proud of themselves, and he always says, "Oh, I did such a good job," and I say, "You did an amazing job." I pat him on the back every chance I get. I did go and see, I was always on the 10th floor because every floor is for different patients, and I was always on the 10th floor. So you know all the nurses well and everyone well because you see the same people all the time, and they do it that way on purpose, which is a good way to do it. And I did go at Christmas for the first time back to the hospital. I was never able to really go back sooner than this last Christmas. And I'd made cookies and baskets and treats and stuff for the nurses' stations. And you would not believe how happy they were to see me, because when they saw me before, I had no hair, no eyelashes, no eyebrows. I looked, my face was swelled like this. And to see that I was well and back at work and doing well, they just don't see their patients after they leave, kind of like us with our students. They're gone. What do they do? Where do they go? But even with this, they lose patients. And so seeing a patient that has done well and is doing okay, it was really awesome to go back, and they were thrilled. I do still have neuropathy in both of my feet. I think that God left me with that, so I would never forget, like I said, where I came from. And because it's a constant reminder. But what that means is, if you're not familiar with it, is if you sit on your foot and your foot goes to sleep, both of my feet feel like they're asleep, just like that all the time. So I do have to be careful about, when I walk and steps and stairs and stuff, because I can't really feel my feet the same way that you can feel yours. And I have to wear flat shoes because I worry on heels that I just can't feel my feet well enough to not fall out of the shoes. Literally. But I guess the other side is I have blisters on my feet and I can't feel those either. But I try not to have blisters. I'll go and I'll go, ooh, that's a really bad place. Oh, my goodness, and who knew? But I also, the one thing I'm still fighting with is fatigue. I get really, really tired still very easily. And they had indicated that hopefully the fatigue would be better. It's not where I want it to be. It's not, going at the, speed that I went in the past. But I'm doing better, and all the time I'm better. I started actually yesterday doing some yoga, and I'm hoping to do a little bit of yoga and trying to kind of get my stamina and strength back. But it's taken me a while to get to this place. I'm considered cured after 5 years, and so I have 3 more years of going in regularly, although I'll go in for the rest of my life. But in 3 years, you'll hear me screaming from, the top up here, I'm sure, when they consider me officially cured. So the lessons that I learned, the reason that you came, I hope the rest of this did not bore you, but I needed to explain those things to tell you the things that I learned. Number one, don't trust your PCP. They go in and you think there's something wrong, and they go, everything looks good to me. Just go ahead and get a referral before you leave. Go ahead and see a specialist. I should not have waited. I've heard more people tell the same story actually here at the college, that the PCP misdiagnosed or didn't diagnose. And so if your gut says, I think there might be a problem, go ahead and get a referral before you leave, even if they say everything is okay. That's, I would absolutely do that differently next time. The next thing is carry short-term disability, the extra that the college sells. I had never carried it until that year. Go figure. I've been here 14 years, and I was never going to be sick. I was the picture of health. Why in the world would I ever be sick and need short-term disability, extra short-term disability? But for some reason, when we signed up, it was $5 a month, and I was like, $5 a month, whatever. I'll take, whatever was $5 or less, I signed up for, pretty much. I really needed that. It came into play. It was awesome. It was a great financial help. And I will tell you that whoever we contract with as a system does an amazing job. I didn't miss a check. I didn't miss there was not one single problem with the pay. The system, whoever they work with, and with HR and with all those people, it was perfect. There was not one. I filled out the paperwork, and HR and those companies took it from there, and that money was put into my account, and I'm the primary breadwinner at my house. My husband is disabled, and so those checks were very important to me. I was not a, extra let's party paycheck. I was actually a, pay the bills paycheck, and so that money being there, and there was not one glitch in any of it, and I appreciated that immensely. Blood and platelet donation. If you've never given blood and you need to consider doing that. I had given blood in the past, but I was not a faithful blood giver because I don't like needles, like I said about that cortisone shot thing. If I could do it over again, I would absolutely give blood every opportunity that I gave. I had to have 2 to 3 to 4 units of blood every time I had a treatment because my blood was so depleted that I had to have those. Platelets are much more difficult for them to get. And platelets, leukemia patients take the majority of those. So if you're not a leukemia patient, you're kind of on a B list for the platelets. So on 3 different instances, my platelets were between 0 and 2,000. And remember, they needed to be at the minimum 144,000. And they ordered me 4 units of platelets. And in all 3 cases, I was only able to get 2 because that's all that they would give me. They have to dole it out. And they doled it out by kind of emergency kind of thing. Well, 2 will hold you over and get you out of the, they wanted it up at least to 10,000, and that'll get you to the 10,000 mark, and so you can have 2. It takes an hour to give platelets, and so it is a sacrifice of time, but there are people that desperately need those. So if you're a blood giver or you would consider doing that and staying the extra hour and giving the platelets, there are people that really need it. And I'm kind of like, give it so hopefully you don't ever have to have them. Give them to somebody else, that needs them desperately, and I would recommend that. Being healthy, I thought that I was such a, health nut. My sons had always said, you're going to live to be 125 because I was, ate right and exercised and all about health and that sort of thing. So I was like the last person that should get sick. And so it seemed very unfair, right? So when I get it, I'm like, what? I've been watching what I eat. I've been exercising. I've been doing all the stuff I'm supposed to do. This is not fair. But the truth of the matter was I could not have survived those treatments without having been in the condition I was in. And that's actually what I was going to say a minute ago. The doctor said, if you were not as healthy as you are, you could not take these treatments. And he said many people stop the treatments because they're just too hard. They just basically opt to die because their bodies cannot take the treatments, or their bodies are just not able to. Their bodies don't bounce back. And they said, you are so healthy even at your age, whatever that means. You're so healthy that I think we're going to be able to do the full range of treatments, giving you the best chance to get well. And so if you don't, want to think about being healthy to not get sick, well, think about it helps you recover. And so I want to pass along that good word. The next thing I want to tell you about is the college itself. The college was amazing, amazing. I thought about bringing in the box of cards that I got from everyone, and it was just too big and too heavy. But I have a box at home that's about this wide and about this deep that's full of cards all the way to the top of cards that I got from people here at the school. People sent me flowers on a regular basis. People brought me food. People sent me gifts, big old boxes. I had adjuncts that sent me big old boxes full of all kinds of things. I mean, just the support and knowing I had not been forgotten and that people were thinking about me and caring. And I guess Pam can attest because she lives in my neighborhood, so she would deliver everything to me. And so she can attest at, how often she brought me things and things were sent to me. In addition to that, and I don't want to go into the detail because the people probably don't want me to do that, but because I am the main wage earner, and because my disability was paid on my base salary, not on my stipend. So I, get overload, I get a chair stipend, I have other monies. It wasn't paid on any of that. It was paid just on the base salary. And so I have friends here that knew that was going to be very devastating for me. And so without divulging names and without divulging amounts, people at this school made up all the difference that I lost. So that's beyond me. That's beyond me. That financially, I did not have $10 less a month than I always had, because they got together as a group. They determined, how much I was going to lose, and they got those numbers, and they divided it among themselves, and they direct deposited it into my account. So I hope you're never in a situation where you need anybody here to do anything for you, honestly, and I wish that I had not been in that situation, but I do want you to know that you work at a school where people do that for each other. I had that incredible need. I did not ask anybody for anything. They stepped up and they did that for me, and it was, there's just not words to describe, one, how much it meant, and two, how incredibly wonderful that was, because the support was, not only do we care about you and we're going to send you a card, but we're going to put a check in your account to be sure that all of your bills are paid and that everything is taken care of. And I think that we work at the most incredible college, and I'm sure that there's little ins and outs and little issues, and people, get mad at each other and whatever, but when it comes down to it, Tomball truly is a family. It truly is a family of people that care and support each other, and I think it's important for everybody in here to know that I was supported in that way. If you have someone that gets sick or something happens, I think the hardest for me was I felt like I was on the fringes looking in. I was not in life anymore. So I sat out here while everybody went on with their lives, and I watched everybody go on with their lives. And that was the most difficult part of all this. I had been in the middle of everything going, and now all of a sudden I was outside watching everything go without me. And that was really difficult. So if you know someone that goes through a hard time, whatever kind of a hard time it is, think about that and remember that they feel like they're on the fringes watching everybody else's life go on wonderfully without them, and think about what you can do to help them feel included and feel a part. And everybody did that for me. Everybody did that for me. But I'm sure that other people, I just want to encourage you to continue to do that and do that for other people that you know. I used to think I had the most awful hair in the whole world, and I used to complain about my hair profusely. I have this very thin, fine baby hair. And but boy, when all the hair was gone, I really wanted that yucky hair back. So being bald is no picnic, and other than you don't have to shave your legs, which was, that was a perk, I will admit. I tried to look for the positive, and that was a perk. I couldn't reach them anyway, but I didn't have to worry about them being shaved. But not only do you lose your hair, but you lose your eyebrows and your eyelashes. And so then you have this very distinct alien look. And so it was so bad that I would not look in the mirror. So I would brush my teeth like this and would not look up because I didn't have any hair to comb and I didn't, want anything to put my, mascara on. So there was no point in, looking in the mirror. And so just thank the Lord for your hair every day and that you have it. Doesn't matter if you're having a bad hair day. You have it. You have hair and you have eyelashes and eyebrows. So I just think you need to appreciate that. Probably the biggest difference has been that I now just appreciate life more than I ever did before. Before, life was just things to do. I was busy, I had a family, I had a job, I went to the gym, I was just a busy, busy person, and, that whole stop and smell roses was a cute thing to say, but I didn't really know what that meant. I don't get in a rush to go anywhere now. If I'm late, I'm late. Just need to leave a little earlier next time. I do not run in a 90-mile-an-hour speed. I enjoy every day. I try not to complain. If I complain, I try to catch myself, right, Kim? I try to catch myself and say, whoop, I am not going to do that. We have so much to be thankful for. If you're at work today and you're sitting in this chair, you are incredibly blessed, and you should be so grateful for that. And other things just don't matter. I know with my oldest son, when I was going through the treatments, he had a brand new truck and the engine blew up. And he was like, it's because of an oil change issue. We won't go there. And it was going to be a $10,000 repair. And he said, or a fight with the oil change company. And you can tell how that story would go. And he said, in the past, he said, I would have just absolutely lost it like you would. My brand new truck and the engine is blown up. And he's like, don't care, fix it. I'll talk to him, get another one. I'll do something else. And so our whole family had a total life change of the way that we looked at everything. And I even remind them if they slip back and they say, oh, and I say, ooh, priorities, oh, you're right, does not matter. Water off a duck's back, water off a duck's back, does not matter. And I think it's a frame of mind. Thing I hated to do before was stand in line at Walgreens. Do any of you go to a Walgreens that the line is like, okay, that can make you crazy. I mean, before it used to make me just want to bang my head on the person in front of me, right, because it was such a horrible experience. Now when I stand in Walgreens, although I don't do it that often, I mostly see my husband, but when I do stand in line at Walgreens, when that thought comes in of, oh, this is so horrible, I go, you know, I'm well, I'm healthy, I'm standing in line at Walgreens, I'm not laying on the 10th floor at MD Anderson, you know, I'm so glad to be standing here. And so, although you have not been through the experience I've been through, and I don't wish it on anybody. And I even said to Stephen, I said, I wouldn't wish that experience on my worst enemy. And he goes, that's great. I don't think you have any enemies, but whatever. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. I hope you're right. I wouldn't wish the experience and the trauma of it all on anybody. But what I do wish for everybody in here is that you learn from my experience. You know, that you think about those situations. And I'm just one of thousands and thousands of people in Houston who are dealing with that situation today, who are being diagnosed today, who are having surgery today, who are having chemo right now as we speak, you know, at MD Anderson. And so when you get tempted to, you know, complain or life is, you know, crummy or whatever, you really just need to stop and think, wow, I'm really so blessed. I'm really so blessed. I haven't lost a family member. I'm not sitting at MD Anderson spending the night all night with a family member. I'm just incredibly blessed. So to end my story, because you came today, you get to hear some very exciting news. Is everybody in for some exciting news? So my youngest son is still not married, and nor is he engaged. And so we don't have anything on the calendar for the dance, but it's coming. It will come. It will come. I'm totally confident that I will dance with him at his wedding. But the good, yeah, no pressure. No pressure. But I am going to be a grandmother. And they are having triplets. Yes. So God just blessed me threefold. So I am, not only am I well, but I have been blessed and going to have triplets and still have a chance to dance at Stephen's wedding. And hopefully he doesn't bring his children in threes. I don't know how many triplets one family could take, but I'll be happy for his to come one at a time. So thank you for coming.